Morning number 1829, consecutive days in a row, on morsels of a thought of wisdom, hopefully that we learn the right things to do. Larry J. Namer wrote this book. The title of it is Off Script. Can you see the writing? Off Script. Recipes for Success. Never follow the crowd. And he has got recipes, real recipes in here alongside his photos. Ooh, he's got some interesting photos here. I'll show you some. He's got with China's star. Let's see. And yeah, she's pretty. Um, here you go. We were reading and we're on page 32. I'm going to read you a recipe for every few pages. We'll go to a recipe if we go through that many pages. Um, True to their word, they did put me in Liberace's old house. Now he's just got a deal to move from where he is on the East Coast all the way to the West Coast where he didn't want to come. Right now, we're bringing more virtue into the world by asking for wisdom. I'm simply reading to you what other people's wise people have to say through their life experiences. So, what you're getting is a synopsis of their life experiences, what they learned, and we can know that those are the right things to do if we think they apply to ourselves. Knowing the right things to do is wisdom. Doing it is actually virtue. Yay! True to their word, they did put me in Liberace's old house, and I was fascinated with it, swimming pool and all. There I was, a Brooklyn kid who hilariously dared to ask to live in a house that I'd only seen on TV, knowing in my mind that there was absolutely no way they would ever agree to that. They rented the house, and that's where I lived. I have to admit it was pretty cool when my friends from Brooklyn came out to visit. After all, this house was featured in the opening of Entertainment Tonight every evening. When I told my mother, she thought I was on drugs and there was no way I would be living in this famous house. It didn't feel possible that I would be living that kind of life. I literally went from 14th Street in Manhattan and threw my stuff into a truck and moved to the land of the stars. This 30-year-old from Manhattan Cable was now working as the general manager and vice president for Cable America, a subsidiary of Cable Casting Limited of Canada, in Los Angeles. All of the operating departments reported to me, and I was also responsible for the finance, marketing, and programming. To top it off, we did have 61 channels to work with, but at the time there weren't 61 channels in existence. So we had to invent the channels to fill those slots. And that is exactly what we did. We hit the ground running and were only limited by our imaginations. It was actually fun to do things no one had ever thought of before. We had town hall meetings and talked to politicians and polled the public to see what they wanted. In the end, Forbes magazine named our company to be the national model for cable programming. With one of our first new technologies being the introduction of pay per view, capital P, capital V, where people could watch a movie at home at the same time it was released in the theaters. The first one was actually the movie about the Doors, the singing group. Some of the members of the Doors came to the studio, like Robbie Krieger. Jim Morrison was already dead, and we made it happen. Krieger is spelled Krieger. It was actually rather inexpensive to do, but it showed me that people would be willing to do it if we made it interesting enough and added value. Now we had to make sure that the experience we created was different than going to the movies. We had to talk to some of the guys that were in the movie and bring them into people's living room to make it special and something they'd be willing to pay for. page. And as soon as we gave them a taste of what cable television could really be, the sky was the limit. We had 61 channels to fill, and I knew we could do it. Next, chapter 6, an instant 3.5 year success. Wow, that's actually pretty good. A lot of people are overnight successes that take 35 years, most of the time, 20 years. Okay, the years I spent creating Valley Cable were filled with challenges and opportunities, capital V, capital C. First, I was charged with supervising departments I had no experience with, and my role within the company was on a far larger scale than the one I'd held at Manhattan Cable. Top that with the fact that I was in Los Angeles, where the atmosphere and lifestyle was unlike anything I'd ever known in Coney Island. And it's safe to say I was out of my comfort zone. Let me see. I am reading Larry Namer's book, Off Script. You can see the book, but you probably can't see the. Oh, you can't see the whole book. Oh, sorry. I can do this, I guess, with the camera. Yeah. Okay, let's do this. All right. All right. We're bringing more virtue into the world, morsels of a thought at a time. That's my goal. Okay. If anyone had said I had a lot to learn, they wouldn't be wrong. If they said I wouldn't let that stand in my way, they'd be right. The truth was, I was just naive enough to believe that I was up for the job and confident enough that I didn't let my lack of experience stand in my way. Sure, I was young and knew nothing about celebrities and the entertainment world, but I didn't care. This 31-year-old former cable splicer from the ghetto was up for the challenge. This is wonderful. I know backstage stuff too. It's because mom was a performer. Outside of creating the different departments, my main mission was to fill 61 channels with content that people would want to watch. Turn the page. Okay. Ooh, yeah. Yeah. Don't drop anything. Okay. Want to watch something that had never been done before. At that time, there were a handful of major networks, but few other options for television viewers in LA, or anywhere for that matter. Coming up with affordable ideas for shows that would appeal to the public was quite the task, and we were open to anything, dedicating one channel to featuring lust and found. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. Thinking of the film Lust Caution. That's a Chinese film. Okay. Sorry. Okay. I'm going to go back to the book.
Sorry, I couldn't go back.
Thank you. Oh my God.
You're
Sorry.
welcome.
I set off my Siri. I have an emergency call going on at the same time, so that's why my phone is on. In just 3 years. Okay, hold on. Dedicating one channel to featuring lost and found pets says it all. But we had plenty of channels to fill, and we knew we had to get creative to do it. In just 3 years, we successfully built the first 61 channel two-way interactive cable system in the United States. And we did it so well that Forbes magazine gave us an award declaring that Valley was the national model for cable programming. To think that it all started with just two pieces of paper, which they literally handed me when I got off the plane in LA. One was the franchise that the city gave to them, stating what I had to build. The other was the credit line from Toronto Dominion Bank telling me what I had to do to draw the money I needed to build it. Frankly, I had so much freedom that I felt like a kid in a candy store. With 61 channels to create, we played with a lot of programming ideas and had the liberty to try a lot of unusual things. On a low budget, being in the heart of Hollywood helped. We had access to a lot of famous people and celebrities, and I was fortunate to work with some innovative people who helped fill those channels with the school library channel, the school lunch channel, the city government channel, and the Lost Pets channel. We also created a production team that won awards for new shows, such as the Rascado, Rascado and Dos, which is Spanish for one heart broken into, Rascado and Dos. Rascado, next word And, next word Dos. Capital R, capital D. A new show dedicated to LA's Mexican population that represented being torn between two countries and two cultures. That and other shows won us an ACE award, capital A, which is the cable version of an Emmy, and a feather we proudly wore on our programming hat. Our success sparked my interest in understanding how far our programming opportunities could really go. In Manhattan, I'd been responsible for identifying non entertainment uses for cable, but I was now on the other side of the business, discovering how to use cable television in a way that would open up the entertainment world in new and exciting ways. Hold on a second. This thing is crooked. Ay, ay, ay. Technical pause here. All right, technical pause right here. I'm trying to straighten the camera because I look crooked, right? Am I? Oh, stop doing that. Oh, oh, dang. Good morning, John Clark. Good morning, Mandy Olekshi. Good morning, Odette Minders. Good morning, Colleen, Colleen, Colleen Dracos. Good morning, wise person Gina Portoff. And good morning, JR Taylor. And good morning. Okay, to build it, frankly. Okay, good. City government. Okay. Okay. Our success sparked my interest in understanding how far our programming opportunities could really go. In Manhattan, I'd been responsible for identifying non-entertainment uses for cable, but I was now on the other side of the business, discovering how to use cable television that in a way that would open up the entertainment world in new and exciting ways. That's why I chose to build and lead one of the most advanced cable systems in the world. One of the most memorable projects I led was the implementation of a new, more efficient service system. This involved not only optimizing our operations, but also innovating in ways that had never been done before in the industry. For example, we developed a 61 channel two-way interactive cable system, the first of its kind, which became a national recognition from Forbes magazine. When Bally announced that they were selling the company and going back to Canada, I had the opportunity to go with them, but I declined. I wasn't about to go from New York to Los Angeles only to end up in Toronto. The climate was one reason I'd moved to LA, and I'd grown quite accustomed to it. Canada just wasn't on my radar. It was then that Alan Mruvka and I started playing around with the idea of forming our own company. Alan, ALAN, while having a degree in architecture, was as interested as I was in delving deeper into the world of entertainment. So in 1984, we created the business plan for the Movie Time Channel. Incorporated, which later was narrowed down to Movie Time before we realized that we didn't want to limit ourselves solely to movies, so we renamed it E Bang. E Bang. E quotation mark capital E exclamation point close quote to encompass all avenues of entertainment. It simply made sense. When you're in Rome, do as the Romans do, right? Well, in Los Angeles is one of the few cities that is totally dominated by a single industry, Much like Detroit is the automotive center, LA is the entertainment capital of the country, if not the entire world. Entertainment is its entire culture. After moving to LA and being in the heart of the entertainment world, I would see my neighbors and friends going to prestigious movie premieres and parties. And like most people, I wanted to be a part of that world as well. So I picked up the phone and called the studios asking to be put on the list. After all, I was known for creating the cable company that aired the shows and the stars, but the response I got wasn't what I was looking for. Larry, you are running a cable construction company. You know we won't put you on our guest list. It was like being told I represented the phone company or the gas company. They wouldn't put me on the list because they saw me as a utility company rather than a media conglomerate. Not one to give up easily, I pushed a bit farther, but the answer didn't change. They were adamant that they weren't going to put me on a premier list. I'd been innovative before, so I put on my thinking cap and came up with an idea. Listen to this. I called back and said, listen, the most effective marketing vehicle that you have for the movies is the movie trailer. I made sure I repeated that more than a few times. Now, we both know that the 2 minute trailer is often better than the movie itself. And we know that you use the best 2 minutes to promote a $50 million movie. Tell me something. Why do I only see movie trailers when I'm already in the movie theater? Don't you think that you should be showing these two people when they're home and make them want to go to the movies? While they argued that couldn't do that because airtime was expensive, I knew I was onto something. I had my opening and I took it. Thanks to Valley Cable, my access to celebrities was just a channel away. Now, I'm going to go to a recipe. We're going to go to a recipe. Right now, I'm going to show you that Larry Namer has food recipes that he has developed. And he says that he would be a food celebrity if he had not been a celebrity. So let's go to his food. Okay, chicken parmigiana. I think we read that one. Now, burrata and tomato. Okay, so I'll show you this picture. Burrata and tomato. I should probably make a Xerox and hold it up while I'm reading the 2 balls of fresh burrata, each cut in half to make 4 servings. 1 large heirloom tomato sliced into 4 pieces. 1 bunch of arugula. 4 tablespoons virgin olive oil. 2 tablespoons balsamic vinegar. 1 squirt balsamic vinegar crema. 4 leaves fresh basil chopped. Pinch of salt. Pinch white pepper. In a salad bowl, mix the arugula with the olive oil, balsamic vinegar, salt, and pepper. Then divide it and place on plates. Add one tomato sauce slice. Add 1 tomato slice to each. Drizzle the balsamic crema over the cheese and around the plate. Sprinkle with chopped basil and serve. That is your burrata and tomato. If you're a tomato fan, you will love this. Oh my goodness. Okay, we'll go back to the book. Back to the story. Change the bookmark so that we don't mess up and do it again next time. I like to know what I'm reading. Okay, back to the book. Okay, I said, I'll tell you what. I have a channel that I'll put your movies trailers on, but you have to put me on the party and premiere lists. Bingo! I found my ticket and they agreed to put me on the list to attend their premieres as long as I put the movie channels on our dedicated channel, aptly called the Trailer Channel. To their surprise, surveys showed that the Trailer Channel was an audience favorite. They went from loving ESPN and MTV, channels that cost $100 million, to loving our Trailer Channel, which cost nothing. Not only did it give us access to the stars, but it gave us an opportunity when we formed E. It was Alan who had the idea. Alan was my friend from New Jersey, And he and I partnered together when Valley sold the company. It was Alan who said he wanted to create a channel like MTV, but for the movies. It was an interesting concept, especially since I had so much success with the trailer channel. There really is, there's really no difference between standing a host in front of a green screen who points at the screen and announces Madonna has a new music video than having a host, a movie jock, if you will, stand in front of the same screen announcing Schwarzenegger has a new movie. It was like a light bulb went off. There was no need to recreate the wheel. We just had to figure out different ways to use it. Movies, TV, and all other forms of entertainment other than music were not given in depth coverage. Studios would fight to get 20 seconds on Entertainment Tonight. That's a show, Entertainment Tonight. So we sat down and wrote a business plan, certain that it was such a good idea that somebody would love it and give us the funding to get started. Being from Coney Island, I was tough and didn't give up easily, but even I didn't think it would take as long as it did to find someone to fund us. How long did it take? 3 years. 3.5 years to be exact, and even then, it was a tough sell. We heard all the excuses. It's a nice idea, but if it's so great, how come somebody hasn't already done it? If it's such a good idea, Robert Murdoch would already be doing it. Then there was the regular people don't start TV networks. Only big media companies do that. You're not Warner Brothers, Time Incorporated, or Fox. You can't compete with those folks. Then we finally met a guy in New York who said he wanted to give us money. Jeff Pollack, Pollack, was heading in the investment banking firm of Mavon Nugent, Mavon Nugent, a traditional Wall Street bond house. This was the break we needed. I think it's Nugent. Yvonne Nugent. You know, the range from starting a network is 60 to 100 million, I said. Could you make it closer to 100 so we can do all the things we have planned? He knocked us down with his reply. Oh no, I'm only allowed to sign for 2.5. With the low end being 60 million, we asked them what the hell we were going to do with 2.5. They didn't budge and said that was all they could do, but they could help raise some more. With that, Ellen and I looked at each other. Knowing we didn't have any other offers on the table, we decided to take the 2.5 and figure out the rest. At the time, I had a friend named Brian Owens who was teaching radio, television, and film at the University of Texas at Austin. We went back to the days when I worked at Valley Cable. I gave him a call and told him about our idea. When he said he loved the idea, I mentioned that he probably had students who would likely relish Hollywood scripts. That call landed us 31 kids from UT, Texas in Austin, who spent the summer getting us off the ground. Once we launched in record time of 3 months from funding, many of these interns loved being with us so much they stayed in LA. Most people don't realize, thinking of today, that it started with 11 employees and 31 interns. We brought in some really great people from the local cable scene who were experts in how to stretch a dollar. Brian Owens came back from Texas. Rick Portin, Portin, from Viacom, San Francisco, came to be head of production. And Phil Quepske, Quepschke, and Mark Hale came from Falcon Cable. We will read from here next week. We are going to listen to what Larry Namer did to overcome hurdles. Taking the magic action to do the right thing for yourself is actually a form of virtue. Okay, so I'll talk to you later. Old Kinderhook.